Now it's time for Lefties Losing It, and I regret to inform you that the TV studios are at it again, pushing trans and racial activism onto kids as young as 2. This is Nickelodeon.
Yellow is sunlight, green nature blue, harmony purple is spirit, baby blue, pink, white represent transgender people, and black and brown represent the queer and trans people of color.
The queer and trans people of colour. I can just imagine the bewildered toddlers watching that. Now, you know we can never go too long in this segment without featuring the work of the ladies of The View. Each and every episode showcases just how broken the hosts are, including the alpha female of the pack, Whoopi, who could not even bring herself to say Trump's name without spitting. Gross.
I think it would be remiss of us to not say Joe Biden knows how to do this.
Yes.
He knows how to do this. He's quite good at this. And, you know, you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing?
They're so bitter, broken and miserable. Not sure why that makes me smile, but it does. But this next clip is no laughing matter. It should fill you with fear. This is Andile Niktama, who has just been sworn in as a Member of Parliament in South Africa. And let's have a look at some of his earlier work calling for the revenge killing of white people, the murder of white South African men, women and children.
They killed one of us, we kill how many whites? We kill the children, we kill the women, we kill their dogs, we kill their cats, we kill anything that comes.
Now to a clip showing a woman in Muslim garb encouraging a couple of Western girls to give the veil a go. Yes, what a transformation. I wonder how you would go if you took a couple of shorts and crop tops to Afghanistan and encouraged the local women there to try it on for a cultural enrichment. Let's not forget women in countries like Iran are risking their lives fighting against compulsory hijab. Now, another profound bit of communication from the Veep. Here, Kamala Harris explains community banks.
So the importance of community banks is they are, as they are called, they're in the community, led by members of the community. They are people who understand the capacity of the community, the needs of the community, the culture of the community.
Did you get that? Community banks are banks and they're also in the community. Quite profound there. Let's have some more financial advice from the woman one geriatric heartbeat away from the Oval Office.
To aspire to create wealth is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. If that is what one chooses. I, on the other hand, have chosen to live a life of public service. But I am all for any of you get yours if that's what you want, right?
Hilarious. That public service, none of it good, has seen Kamala Harris accumulate a net worth somewhere between 7 and 15 million, according to media reports. Now let's go to some local lefties losing it. Here are the climate cultists who think they are saving the world, one blockade, one foolish protest at a time, and they've also started singing.
One more. Stop in the name of life before we break apart. Stop in the name of life. This could be our last chance before it's over. This crap is killing us. Toss it over. This coal is killing us. Stop. Woo.
Wow. Wow. Before you mock us in Australia too much, the Yanks have plenty of climate cranks of their own, and in recent days they've managed to disrupt a golf tournament and a congressional baseball game. Just watch these soy boys and girls go. Now, the latest scare campaign they're running against Trump is to have a bunch of activist economists suggest Trump's presidency could be disastrous for the US economy and the world. This is the same scaremongering we saw before 2016. Do they think the American people have mass amnesia? Let's hear from a woman I did not expect to be backing Trump, ARK Invest founder Cathie Wood.
Trump or Biden?
The word is, so as I've said to my children, so I have 2 girls and a boy, and they're split on this. As I've said to them, look, I am going to vote for the person who's going to do the best job for our economy. I am a voter when it comes to economics. And on that basis, Trump. I mean, So Art Laffer describes the first 3 years of the Trump presidency as the best in U.S. economic history. Not the last one because of COVID, but, and I would agree.
Wow.
And I went through Reaganomics too.
The first 3 years of the Trump economy were the best in US history. That was the quote there. Interesting. Also interesting is the realisation from many on the left, including Trump-deranged media types like Bill Maher, that the lawfare the Democrats have engaged in to convict Trump on nonsense charges has backfired. Here is Bill Maher with former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democrat naturally, confirming what we've been saying all along. These charges would have never been manufactured if Trump wasn't running.
The trial in New York, the one he got convicted for, was the greatest fundraising bonanza ever. He was lagging behind Biden, and now he's pulled quite a bit ahead. That trial was the greatest reason people had to send their checks for $5, $10, $25, whatever dollars to Donald Trump. So I was always with you on the one in New York, the hush money trial. I don't think they should have brought that one. It was just always going to look like a sex case, and people were always just going to look at it that way. So anyway.
That case, the Attorney General's case in New York, frankly, should have never been brought. And if his name was not Donald Trump, and if he wasn't running for president, I'm the former AG in New York, I'm telling you that case would have never been brought. And that's what is offensive to people. And it should be, because if there's anything left, it's belief in the justice system.
Joining me now is journalist and filmmaker Ami Horowitz. Ami, the front page of the New York Post says it all, betrayal. There is Alvin Bragg there, who has dropped charges against anti-Israeli activists who rampaged at Columbia University. The New York District Attorney who brought Donald Trump to trial is letting the violent protesters off scot-free. And Ami, I would say this sets a dangerous precedent. Is it okay to aggressively harass and intimidate Jewish people in New York these days?
Yeah, this is a disgusting betrayal, and I'm not even the least bit surprised, unfortunately. This is de rigueur for what's happening in our blue cities. When people attack Jews, it's fine. It's open season when it comes to harassment of Jews. Look, this has been, I was with these Columbia protesters. I did videos with them. I spent hours with them. They were aggressive. They were nasty. They were physical. They were literally physically intimidating Jewish students from attending classes before any arrest happened whatsoever. And look, I have to remind you, we talked about this in the show before, when I went and I took out the American flag at a public campus that I pay taxes for, when I was attacked aggressively by these protesters. I was detained, not anybody who attacked me and who beat me. And when I was detained, I was talking to the police and why am I under arrest? They said, well, we have a mandate from above. Of course, we're talking about Alvin Bragg. Of course, we're talking about the mayor. This is the situation we have in New York. And of course, if you don't fight back against these people, you're going to get more of this, right? It's what we saw in the synagogue in California when they stopped Jews from entering synagogues because they know it's open season, that it's fine.
Well, it seems to be an issue that goes beyond these protests, Army. We've seen violent criminals who are released again and again, whilst you've got Bragg preoccupied with this nonsense with Trump. Now, that's out of the way, but it seems that philosophy of not putting people in jail when they commit violent offences is continuing in New York. Is there going to be any change in that? Is there any sort of a uprising from the local population there who are sick of the crime rate?
Yeah, no, people see, look, this is what we are finding is that people, when they are, even if they are left of center, right, and they're Democrats, when they're confronted with reality, they in fact do start to show their discomfort. You know, I think you're now seeing in the polls across the country, where in states where Democrats have dominated, right? In Virginia, where a Republican hasn't won in over 20 years. In Minnesota, a Republican hasn't won over 50 years, right? In New York State, where a Republican hasn't won also in over 25 years, we're seeing these things creep within the margin of error or be tied, or in the state of New York, far better than ever done before, because whether it comes with crime or immigration, I think people now see, even Democrats, this cannot work. This cannot stand.
Well, Donald Trump and Joe Biden will face off in their first televised election debate for 2024. It's this Thursday, Friday morning, our time. The rules they've set out for this debate seem to favour Joe Biden, things like muting the microphones unless it's their turn to speak and no live audience. And really, does anyone think the Biden camp hasn't got the questions already? And this debate is on a vehemently anti-Trump network, CNN, that relentlessly pushed every conspiracy theory and hoax, from the Russian collusion hoax to the fine people on both sides lie to the Hunter Biden laptop being Russian disinformation. And Army, the debate is going to be moderated by two Trump-deranged individuals, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Now, everyone knows what a biased hack Bash is, but some still think, despite his part in enthusiastically pushing every anti-Trump disinformation we've heard in recent years, a lot of people still think Tapper is a straight shooter. But just have a look at this, see how overjoyed he was when he learned Trump would no longer be president.
Extreme divisions, many of the divisions caused and exacerbated by President Trump himself. It's been a time of several significant and utterly avoidable failures, most tragically, of course, the unwillingness to respect facts and science and do everything that can be done to save lives during a pandemic. It has been a time where truth and fact were treated with disdain. It is a time of cruelty, where official inhumanity, such as child separation, became the official shameful policy of the United States. But now the Trump presidency is coming to an end, with so many squandered opportunities and ruined potential, but also an era of just plain meanness. It must be said, to paraphrase President Ford, for tens of millions of our fellow Americans, their long national nightmare is over.
The nightmare is over. The meanness of the border policies, Army not respecting the COVID science. That little rant hasn't aged too well.
No, look, I actually have known Jake Tapper a little bit. We're somewhat in contact with each other. I kind of like him personally. And I think that everything, it's all relative speaking. I think relative to other people on CNN or MSNBC, he's not that terrible. He is absolutely no fan.
Oh, well, that's saying something.
As you saw there. True. Look, at the end of the day, why did Trump take these debates so quickly, even though he knew that it was stacked against him? He did it because Joe Biden wasn't going to debate otherwise, right? Look, we were debating this and talking about this before. there was a good chance there will be a first time in presidential history, modern presidential history, that there wasn't going to be a debate. Trump knew that and needed to make this move in order to get Biden to debate. We all know the bias against Republican candidates on these debate stages. This is nothing new. These debates are run by the mainstream media. They're hosted by the mainstream media. And we all know statistically they vote Democratic. No question about it. But the truth is, this debate, it is so important because, you know, this race is so tight that even though Trump is leading in a lot of the battleground states, they're all in a statistical dead heat. And there aren't going to be many inflection points during the course of this election. This is going to be one of those inflection points. And in fact, I do think that this debate will set the trajectory for the rest of this election. And it'll be very difficult if somebody takes a large lead from this debate. It'll be very hard for that other person to come back. So I think this is important. I think, frankly, counterintuitively, the mics being shut off may actually help Trump in a couple of ways. First of all, it goes against it kind of pulls him back from his self-destructive nature of kind of being a little bit of a jerk on camera, which he can be sometimes, a little bit over-aggressive. I think he does better when he's calm, cool, and collected. I think this will force him to do that. And frankly, you want Joe Biden to have time, right? And not to be interrupted by Trump, because when he has time, that's when you see Biden self-destruct. He may not even make it through the entire time that he has allotted to him. We've seen it before. We've had a minute where he stopped 15 seconds short and just stares at the camera. So that actually could work in Trump's favor.
Well, he's going to be practicing like hell for the next few days in preparation. And it's interesting because there's a poll that's been released showing 70% of voters want Donald Trump and Joe Biden to submit to drug testing before the debate. Remember, Trump accused Biden of being as high as a kite and all jacked up during his State of the Union address back in March. And I've got to say, I mean, I like this idea, particularly when it comes to Joe Biden, because there is such a vast difference in the Joe Bidens we see these days. And it's hard to explain. He can be lucid, almost speed talking like he was during the State of the Union. And then he seems utterly lost and slow and incoherent. But before you go, I've got to ask you about Star Wars. We covered this earlier in the year, this painfully woke new series, The Acolyte. It's getting a massive backlash from fans. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 13%, which is terrible, but the critics naturally love it. It's got 85% with the critics. But Elon Musk, a Star Wars fan, has said Lucasfilms has killed Star Wars with its woke propaganda, calling President Kathleen Kennedy more deadly than the Death Star. How do you see this? Is there anything redeeming about this series? Are people, I don't know, are people overreacting, or has the series been killed now?
Yeah, look, it befuddles me that companies, in this case Star Wars, would take such overtly political positions and essentially poo-poo and 50% of the population that buys their products. Like Michael Jordan famously said when he was asked, why is he not taking more social positions? He says, because Republicans buy shoes too, right? That's a sentiment that every company, particularly one that has stockholders, should learn from. Disney stock is down 50% since 2021. Okay,
Yeah.
and ultimately that's who they have to. They have to satisfy the shareholders. They are not doing that. This whole idea about you have to diversify storytelling so you can identify with the characters on camera has never made sense to me. Look, I'm a Jewish person. There are not that many Jewish people in Star Wars, yet I still identify with the good Star Wars, not the crappy Star Wars. There've been many crappy Star Wars, yeah, look, because it's about good versus evil. It doesn't matter if you're black or white or a woman or a man. You can identify with that. And I think that they are really doing themselves a disservice by focusing and leaning into wokeness. It doesn't make any sense, and it's killing them.
It is, but it's so ideological that they're copying the self-harm. They're copying the audience backlash, the share price plummeting, all the bad press they're getting, Disney, and they just keep pushing this barrow. You got to think at some point there's got to be a stop to it. Ami Horowitz, we always enjoy having you, and we'll speak to you next time. The debate would have been run and won, and I'll be looking forward to your insights.
Always a pleasure.